Bitter criticism, very curious day, a very special day for us to understand a couple of things about imperialism. About this is not properly imperialism, but in a kind of way it is. Look, the shadow is. This is not a half day, and well, one hypothesis is that this concrete block is not perfectly vertical, which I guess is not the case. I guess this block is perfect or almost perfect. The question is, it's not half a day. Right here we are in like 3 p.m. The sun is just like that. Well, it's a kind of this kind of geophysics. It is imperialism because a very flagrant case is the Northeast in Brazil, the North Territory, something like. The sun arises 4 a.m. something like 4 a.m. It's just too much, and sun sets at again like 6 p.m. It's just too early. So that's, I don't know, well, there's some criticism over there to make. And well, this show is going to be very special because look at this shadow. So the shadow is going to disappear from here, and the sun is going to move that way, this way. So the shadow is going to go that way, understand? So we're going to start this way, and then we are going to move. We are going to chase the sun. Here we are with a guest dog. No, I forgot for a second. And that's it. Yeah, the other dogs are not free now because they don't get along with, not perfectly. They don't get perfectly along with Noah, which is not so nice. Understand? I will have to keep watching all dogs, which is not so great. I could not read and watch the dogs. Noah! 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 Hey, Noah! 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 Hey, Noah! 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 Oye! Noah was chasing Luna, I swear. So yeah, 4 minutes. We just lose 4 minutes of news. Four minutes of news less. just dog news. Dog news. Dogs local news. I have news. I have garbage news. I mean mainstream media news. Those mainstream media news got accumulated, and now we are going to read it. Some garbage news from mainstream media. Let's see. A Norwegian company is offering cash. Company offers cash for escaped fish if caught by registered fishermen. What? Fox News garbage news. A Norwegian company is offering a bounty of about $45 for each Atlantic salmon that is returned following an escape of about 27,000 fish after a storm damaged a farm. I guess they are trying to avoid ecological disaster, isn't it? I'm going to read that. I guess it's about the environment. Company offers cash for escaped fish if caught by quote-unquote registered fishermen. Reward will be about $45 per captured salmon. By Christine Russell, Fox News. A seafood company in Norway is offering a bounty of its salmon after some 27,000 of them escaped from a farm. Mowi, the world's largest producer of Atlantic salmon, announced recently that about a quarter of its stock had escaped after a fence was damaged during a storm. The fish are believed to be in the waters off the coast of Troms, a city in northwest Norway. The Norwegian media outlet VG reported earlier this week. I don't know if this is the same news, but seafood samples contain high levels of microplastics in the US state, say researchers. In an attempt to get the fish back, Mowi is offering a reward of 500 kroner, about $44 in US dollars, per fish that is caught by a quote-unquote registered fisherman and is brought to a designated center, VG said. The escaped fish were ready to be harvested, said Mowi, and weighed about 12 pounds each. Let's see why they just don't give up on the salmon. I guess it's because of it's all about unbalanced ecology, isn't it? Ecological disaster. There's a photograph. The salmon farming company Mowi is offering about $45 per return fish after a massive escape at one of its farms. The average weight of an Atlantic salmon is between 8 and 12 pounds, according to the website for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Yeah, this I guess is about a wildlife ecological disaster. A salmon researcher told VG that there are risks to the wild salmon population if the farmed fish are not recaptured. And there's a photograph. Atlantic salmon are farmed in rings like the ones shown above. Yeah, they are like rings in the sea, like circles, net circles, something. A storm recently damaged a ring, leading to an escape of an estimated 27,000 farmed Atlantic salmon. In the farmed salmon spawns with the wild salmon, the characteristics of the farmed salmon, increased size and growth rates, could change the wild increased size and growth rates could change the wild salmon. Yeah, that's according to Monica Solberg, a researcher at Norway's Institute of Marine Research, who shared that information with VG. And there's another photograph. Atlantic salmon are about 12 pounds when fully grown. Additionally, as the number of wild salmon has declined over time, it is extra important. It is quote unquote extra important. Extra important because of extra weight, extra size, not oyster size, and wild salmon population separates, she said. Yeah, maybe, but I guess orcas will eat all those salmon, these huge salmons. They will perish. They will have no free lunch. And that's it, that's all. So yeah, so register fisherman, just register fisherman. Let's see more garbage news. I guess this is garbage, Fox News. So what can we get about what we just read? Nothing. Just a crazy ecologist. Fox News, an ecologist newspaper. More garbage news, garbage time. Yahoo News. Wages are rising faster than inflation. Why are consumers still feeling the pinch? Finance.yahoo.com. Wages are rising faster than inflation. Why are consumers still feeling the pinch? The dogs are there eating a bone, yeah. Some dirty bone, There was a rotten bone. Dogs love rotten bones. US Today, Yahoo Finance. US Today and Yahoo may earn commission from links in this article. Pricing and availability subject to change. What? Yeah. Wages are rising faster than inflation. Why doesn't it feel that way? By Daniel Devisse, USA Today. Wednesday, February 12th. I guess that was 2 days ago, yeah. So 2 days ago, by most accounts, wages have risen faster than inflation in the 2020s. Yet for many Americans, it doesn't feel that way. A closely watched index of consumer sentiment published by the University of Michigan fell to 67.8 in February, its lowest mark since the last summer. A recent survey by WalletHub, the personal finance site, found that most Americans don't think their bank accounts are keeping up with inflation. And CBS poll found that 2/3 of consumers think President Donald Trump isn't focused enough on prices. All this consumer ennui comes at a time when inflation is not actually that high. Prices increased by 3% in the 12 months through January. Consumer prices are about 1/5 higher. Consumer prices are about 1/5 higher now than before the pandemic, from inflation's cumulative effects. But salaries are also rising, and by most measures, they are rising faster. Wages outpaced inflation in the pandemic years. That was a subtitle. An interactive data tool launched by the Hamilton Project, part of the nonpartisan Brookings Institution, allows users to compare recent wage growth and inflation by several different measures. Bottom line, almost any way you slice them, wages rose faster than prices from the end of 2019 through the end of 2024. Quote, if you start basically at the beginning of COVID, wages have grown faster than inflation by the standard measures, end quote, said Gerald Cohen, chief economist of the Kennan Institute of Private Enterprise at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and as his surname says, Cohen, Zionist now. Yeah, definitely, he is a Jew. Brookings researchers launched their wage tracker to, quote, bring some light to the very muddled conversation, end quote, said Wendy Edelberg, director of the Hamilton Project. Quote, we started it because there were stories all over the press, some of them saying wages look strong and some of them saying wages look really weak, end quote. As it turned out, analysts were looking at different measures and time periods and sometimes reaching opposite conclusions. For example, hourly wages have mostly outpaced inflation since the first quarter of 2020, but not since the second quarter, when earnings soared. Last year, President Joe Biden and presidential candidate Kamala Harris labored to persuade voters that the historic inflation surge of 2022 was over. I was reading Al Jazeera, and they say the opposite. They say inflation with Biden, it was terrible, and that rising wages had effectively erased its effects. Not by Al Jazeera English, but consumers were mad about prices, and they blamed the Democrats at the polls. Yeah, that's it. That was Al Jazeera says about US elections. Donald Trump regained the presidency in part on a pledge to bring prices down. Now many consumers fear he will push them up. In the University of Michigan survey, Americans said they expect inflation to rise to 4.3% this year under Trump's lead. Why are consumers still feeling the pinch? Here are 5 reasons. And there's a photograph. Molly Reid shops for groceries Thursday with her children. Well, a mom with two Oliver and Ski, a couple of kids. Subtitle: Americans aren't used to inflation. Inflation reached a 40-year high in mid-2022. A surge sparked by COVID-19. Before the pandemic, annual inflation hadn't topped 5% since the Great Recession of 2008. I guess this is because of helicopter money, isn't it? I guess it was just too much helicopter money. Quote, for many people this was their first time experiencing inflation, said Ryan Sweet, chief US economist at Oxford Economics. The Federal Reserve aims for a target of 2% annual inflation, a level so low consumers will forget about it. Quote, we want inflation to be to that point where people don't really think about it, where it doesn't impact your behavior, end quote, Cohen said. Another subtitle, consumers think inflation is unfair. The dramatic uptick in pandemic era prices made consumers mad enough to evict the Democrats from the White House. From the White House. Exit polls showed inflation loomed large in Trump's triumph. That impulse illustrates a fundamental difference between how consumers feel about inflation and wages. Economists say, quote, people tend to view inflation as something someone else inflicts on them, end quote, said Joshua Gottbaum, scholar in residence in the Brookings Institution, quote, they view higher pay as something they earned themselves. Another Zionist, no, it's a joke, but definitely another Jew here. Jews love money. Jews understand a lot of money. Workers feel they deserve their wage increases, the economists said. When inflation hits, they look for someone to blame. Quote, the thing about inflation is people think, quote unquote, I'm getting ripped off, said Mark Sandy, chief economist at Moody's Analytics. Yeah. And there's a photograph. A woman, Save Mark Shecker Bernie Cervantes, ride helps Vicky Langfield of Visalia on Monday. Is a marketplace. This is a supermarket. A 40-year high for inflation in May hit the pocketbooks of shoppers everywhere. And there's another subtitle: wages didn't rise for everyone. While it's true that wages rose faster than prices during the pandemic, those are averages, and they don't apply to everyone. Many Americans saw their inflation adjusted wages decline between 2020 and 2024, economists say, and wages had stagnated for lower and middle-income Americans before the pandemic. Quote, people were already sort of feeling strapped. To its no surprise that people are feeling strapped now, end quote, said Ellie Gold, a senior economist at the left-leaning Economic Policy Institute. In the pandemic years, wages didn't outpace inflation by much, according to an analysis by the left-leaning Center for American Progress. A worker at the median income saw wages rise by only 3.4% between February 2020 and September 2024. Once you adjust for inflation, real wages, quote, aren't much higher than they were prior to the pandemic, end quote, Sandy said. Consider, too, that some prices rise faster than others. Housing prices rose by more than 25% between December 2019 and December 2024. Food prices rose by nearly 30%. Quote, for a person that spends much of their income on food and housing, this means real wages may not have really kept up with their personal inflation, end quote, said Jesus Fernandez Villaverde, an economist at the University of Pennsylvania. And just two more paragraphs. Oh no, but this I have some time, and middle day is not coming here. The middle of the day is still not here. Oh, it's coming. It's coming. Yeah, the sun is coming. We are going to the opposite side. Just 1 second. I lost myself here. Oh, I completely lose the page. Just 3 more paragraphs. And there's a photograph about the last thing I said. Eggshells were slightly barren at Nashville Kroger as Asian flu caused shortages nationwide. But I guess, Yahoo will not say this. Yahoo will not say this, but the real cause of inflation, it was helicopter money. Helicopter money. The government just kept printing dollars during COVID-19 pandemic. Obviously, that's obvious. Prices rose more on everyday items. Another, the last subtitle, or to the second from the end. When prices rise dramatically on items consumers buy regularly, like eggs, consumers take note. Wages rose faster than inflation in the pandemic years, but egg prices rose faster than wages. Spiraling grocery prices register for consumers whenever they visit the supermarket, said Brendan Duke, Senior Director for Economic Policy at the Center for American Progress. Quote unquote, I buy eggs constantly, Duke said. Anyway, so the last one. Democrats and Republicans see things differently. In the months before the 2024 election, Republican consumers fretted about inflation and Democrats chilled. After the election, the party switches places. Quote, Democrats are more fearful of inflation now, and Republicans less so. Yeah, coward Americans, isn't it? Said Skanda Amarnath, Executive Director of Employ America, a left-leaning think tank. Throughout 2024, Republicans consistently said they expect inflation to rise, while Democrats predicted it will ease, according to University of Michigan consumer surveys. In January, Republican inflation expectations abruptly dropped to 0.1%. GOP consumers now expect no inflation in 2025. Democrats, on the other hand, now predict prices will rise by 4.2%. Who's right? Time will tell. This article will originally appeared on USA Today. The name of the article was "Wages are rising faster than inflation. Why do consumers the same name? Why do consumers feel pinched? And look, the shadow is just coming here. Look, the shadow is here, right here. Look, can you see the shadow here? So this was a middle day, and the shadow is gone here. Look, it's absolutely gone. That's it. I'm done. Garbage time. Garbage news today. Right here in the very periphery of the world. In the end of the world. The end of economy. The end of economy. The economic end of the world. This is a neoliberal system. Savagery. No human rights here. The only abuse and violation of people and bodies. That's for sure. But it's beautiful. Geography is beautiful. People is too weak to commit hard crimes. So there's no hard crimes here like kidnapping. There's no kidnapping because people is too weak to move. But that's the reason. There are zombies. There are poor zombie rats. They just drink some tea